I want you to picture this. It's a Tuesday night, January 2026. You've had a long week, kids are finally in bed, and you just want to log into that one little corner of the internet that makes you happy. Maybe it's a forum for, I don't know, vintage bicycle restoration?
Yeah, or a local community chat.
A place you've been a member for years.
Yeah.
You go to log in, you see the username and password field, and you start typing.
But you don't get in. Instead, the screen dims and a pop-up appears. And it's not asking for your password, it's asking you to scan your passport.
Or, and this is somehow worse, it wants permission to turn on your webcam right there in your living room so an AI can scan your face to guess if you look adult enough to read a thread about gear shifters.
And that right there, that is the moment the internet fundamentally changes for millions of people.
Yeah.
If you refuse. Access denied. This is the reality in the UK right now.
We're seeing this pop up everywhere. So today we're doing a deep dive into the UK's Online Safety Act. But, and I want to be really clear here, we're not talking about the politics.
No.
We're not debating the intent of the law. The goal is obviously to keep children safe. We're looking at the specific, messy reality of what's happening right now that all the grace periods are over.
We're looking at the bill that has just come due.
Exactly. We've got a whole stack of vendor pricing sheets, developer case studies, legal briefs. The mission for this deep dive is to figure out what it actually costs in cold hard cash, in developer time, and, in cultural capital for a little guy website to verify that you are a grown-up.
And that distinction is so important, the little guy. Because if you're Meta or Google or TikTok, it's a rounding error for them.
Of course.
They have armies of lawyers, the infrastructure to handle it.
Yep.
We're focusing on the independent web, the hobby forums, the volunteer-run sites with maybe 1,000 to 10,000 users that are suddenly, they're facing an existential crisis.
Because that whole era of just the simple I am 18 plus checkbox, that's dead, right? You can't just take the user's word for it anymore.
Completely dead. As of late last year, the regulatory guidance shifted. The law now requires highly effective age assurance. That's the key phrase.
Highly effective.
So if a site hosts user-generated content that could be harmful to children, and that definition of harmful is pretty broad, they have to prove it.
And if they don't, if they just say, look, we're a small club, just leave us alone.
Then they face the wrath of Ofcom. And the penalties, they're designed to hurt big tech, so for a small player, they're lethal. Fines up to £18 million or 10% of global revenue.
10% of global revenue. Wow.
But the more immediate threat is just site blocking. Ofcom can literally order ISPs to just cut off access to your site in the UK. So compliance isn't a nice to have. It is survival.
Okay, so let's get practical. Let's say I run a site, we'll call it Retrocycle UK. 1,000 cycling fans. I run it out of my garage on a shoestring budget. I need to comply. What are my options? What's actually on the menu?
Well, the menu is pretty extensive, but none of the options are particularly appetizing for a small budget. We usually break them down by friction, so how annoying it is for the user and cost. Option A is the heavyweight champion. Photo ID verification.
This is the banking-style check, right?
Exactly the same tech you'd use to open a digital bank account. The user has to photograph their driver's license or passport, then they usually have to take a selfie. And a third-party service, a company like Veriff, Onfido, or Yoti processes that.
Okay.
They check the holograms, the font, run it against document templates to make sure it's not a forgery.
That sounds incredibly secure. But what does it actually cost me, the guy running the bike forum?
It is the most expensive option by far. You're looking at roughly 50 pence to a pound per check. If you look at the UK government's own G-Cloud pricing for a provider like Yoti, they list £1 per age check as a benchmark.
A pound a person. So if I have 1,000 users, I'm out 1,000 pounds just to let them back in the door.
In a perfect world, yes. But it's actually worse than that. A lot of these vendors, they focus on enterprise clients, so they have setup fees.
Oh, of course.
Yoti, for instance, lists a £750 integration fee just to get started. Others have monthly minimums. So even if nobody signs up in February, you might still be paying Veriff 40 or 50 quid a month just to keep the API active.
That is brutal. That's more than my server costs for the next 5 years.
And that's all assuming your users will actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the friction comes in. People are, rightfully paranoid about identity theft. Asking someone to upload a government ID to a forum they use for bike parts, the drop-off rate is just massive. Most people just close the tab.
I would 100% assume the site had been hacked. So what's the alternative? Is there anything cheaper or less invasive?
That brings us to option B, facial age estimation. This is sort of the industry darling right now because it partially solves that privacy fear.
This is the AI guessing game.
It's a bit more scientific than a guess, but yeah, essentially. The user looks at their webcam, the AI analyzes the geometry of the face, skin, texture, eye spacing, all of it, and estimates an age. It doesn't know who you are, it just says, this person looks 35.
And cost on that?
Significantly lower.
Yeah.
You're looking at about 25 pence per transaction. And because the data isn't stored, you don't have that same sort of toxic liability of holding passport scans.
But here's my issue with that. I mean, I have friends in their 30s who get carded at bars, and I know 16-year-olds who could pass for 25. How accurate is this stuff, really?
That is the challenge age problem.
Yeah.
The tech is actually incredibly good at telling a 40-year-old from a 12-year-old. The error rate there is tiny. But for that critical 18 to 21 window, it struggles.
So if the AI thinks my 19-year-old user looks 16, what happens then?
They get blocked. Or your system has to force them to fall back to option A, the expensive ID upload. So you end up paying 25 pence for the failed facial scan and £1 for the ID check. You've just paid double.
And what about spoofing? Can't a kid just hold up a photo of their dad to the webcam?
That's the arms race. That is why you're paying the 25 pence. These systems use what's called liveness detection. The screen might flash different colors to check the reflection in your eyes or ask you to move your head closer.
Wait.
It's creating a 3D depth map to ensure it's looking at a living, breathing person, not a screen or a printout.
Okay, so we've got expensive IDs and we've got cheaper but maybe less accurate AI faces. What about the old school methods? Can't we just check a credit card?
Option C. Yeah. In the UK, you technically have to be 18 to hold a credit card. So a site can run a transaction, sometimes for 0 pence, sometimes for a penny, just to verify the card is valid.
That sounds like the budget option.
It's the cheapest, for sure. Maybe 5 to 30 pence, strictly for the payment processor fees. But think about the demographic holes there.
Not everyone has a credit card.
Exactly. You're excluding young adults who rely on debit cards. And again, it goes back to trust. Retrocycle UK is a community, not a store. If a forum asks for my credit card number just to let me read a post, my scam radar just goes off immediately.
It feels transactional. It totally changes the vibe. It's like, why do you need my Visa to talk about handlebars?
Precisely. No, there's one more major category, option D, which everyone hopes would be the silver bullet. Mobile network operators.
Right, because the phone companies, EE, O2, Vodafone, they know exactly who we are. We showed them ID when we bought the phone.
In theory, yes. This involves pinging the carrier and just asking, is the account holder for this number over 18? It's frictionless. You just type in your number, get a text code, and you're done.
But there's a catch. There's always a catch.
A big one. It relies on the user having a post-paid contract, a monthly bill in their name. If you're on a pay-as-you-go SIM, or if you're on a family plan where your mom pays the bill, the carrier might not have verified age data for your specific line.
And I'm guessing the mobile operators aren't doing this for free.
Absolutely not. They see this as a massive new revenue stream. While the pricing is a bit opaque, industry chatter puts it in the 30 pence to £1 range. They know they have the most convenient solutions, so they price it accordingly.
There was one more method I saw in our research, email footprinting. That sounds like spycraft.
It's basically data forensics. You give a company your email address and they scour the web. Has this email existed for 10 years? Is it linked to a utility bill? Is it on LinkedIn?
So they build a probability score.
Right. It's an educated guess. This email belongs to someone who's been paying bills since 2015, so they're likely an adult. It's cheap, maybe 10 to 50 pence, and it's low friction. But it's probabilistic. It's not a guarantee. And for a site owner facing an £18 million fine, probably an adult might not be good enough.
Okay, let's actually run the numbers, because when we throw around 25 pence or £1, it sounds trivial, but we need to scale this up to see the damage.
Let's go back to Retrocycle UK. 1,000 users, you're a hobbyist, you don't run ads, you don't sell data, you just like bikes.
Right, I'm paying for the server hosting out of my own pocket, maybe 50 quid a month. I do this for love, not money.
So day one of compliance. You need to verify all 1,000 of your existing users. If you choose the cheap AI facial estimation at 25p, you are writing a check for £250 immediately.
Ouch. I mean, I could maybe swing that, but that's my holiday money gone.
But wait, you can't just offer facial estimation. Some people will refuse. So you have to offer the ID check as a backup. Let's say half your users choose the ID check because they don't trust the AI. Now you're spending £500 for the IDs, plus $125 for the faces.
Right.
Plus that £750 integration fee we mentioned. You are suddenly almost £1,500 in the hole.
For a hobby site, that's game over. I would just shut it down. I can't justify that.
And that's the small scale. Look at a medium-sized forum. A local football supporter club with, say, 10,000 users.
Okay.
10,000 users at even the lowest price point is £2,500. If you have a mix of methods, you could easily be looking at £5,000 to £8,000 just for the intro wave.
And the scary part is this isn't a one-time thing. It's not like buying a software license.
No, it's a tax on growth. Every single new person who wants to join your site costs you money.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 500 new visitors a month, that's another 125 quid every month, forever. You are literally paying to be popular.
That completely inverts the logic of the internet. Usually more users is a good thing. Now, every new user is a financial liability.
Correct. And we haven't even touched the hidden costs. We call this the sweat equity.
Right, because I can't just snap my fingers and have facial recognition suddenly working on my forum software from 2010.
This is where the reality of the small web crashes into the legislation. Most of these sites run on older software, PHP, vBulletin, custom scripts. There's not a plug-and-play button for Yoti or Veriff on these platforms.
Do I have to code it myself?
You or a contractor. You have to build the API hooks. You have to handle all the error states. What happens when the verification fails? What if their API is down? You have to store the verification tokens securely so you don't have to check them every single time they log in.
I'm guessing this isn't a weekend project?
For a savvy developer, integrating one method might take a week or two. But to offer a choice card, face, or mobile, that is complex engineering. If you have to hire a developer, even for a modest 80 hours of work at £50 an hour.
That's another £4,000.
On top of the vendor fees. And then there's maintenance. APIs change. Security certificates expire. And suddenly you, the volunteer admin, your tech support, you're fielding emails from angry users saying the AI thinks I'm 12. Fix it.
It sounds exhausting. It turns a passion project into a second job that costs you money.
Which brings us to the third category of cost. We've done the cash, we've done the sweat. Now we have to talk about the soul of the site.
This is the cultural shift. Because requiring an ID check doesn't just change the login screen, it changes the whole feeling of the room.
Completely. It hits what we call the privacy paradox. The Online Safety Act is designed to protect children, which is noble. But to do it, we are forcing adults to surrender massive amounts of sensitive data.
And this triggers legal headaches too, right, under GDPR?
Massive ones. Even if you, the site owner, never see the passport photo, you are the data controller. You are responsible for vetting your vendor. You have to conduct data protection impact assessments.
Data protection impact assessments. I'm getting a headache just hearing that phrase. I just want to talk about gear shifters.
Exactly, and facial scans. That's likely considered biometric data under the law, which requires explicit consent and higher security standards. For a small site owner, the legal liability alone is terrifying. What if the vendor gets hacked and my users blame me?
And the users feel this too. We've seen what happens when you force this kind of friction on people.
Oh, we have hard data on this. Look at what happened in July 2025. That was when the adult industry, the porn sites, started strictly enforcing these checks.
The famous VPN spike.
A 1,800% increase in downloads for free VPNs in the UK. People didn't stop watching. They just routed their traffic through the Netherlands or the US to avoid the ID check.
Now, that's porn, so people might be more motivated, but the logic holds. If I have to scan my face to read a thread, I'll probably just hit the back button.
We call it the user exodus. Big sites like Instagram or Reddit, they have network effects. Everyone's there, so you tolerate the annoyance. But a small site, if you put a bouncer at the door demanding a passport, people just keep walking.
And for some communities, this isn't just about annoyance, is it? It's about safety.
This is the death of anonymity. Think about the most valuable parts of the internet. LGBTQ plus support groups for people who aren't out yet, mental health forums, whistleblowing sites.
Places where being user 123 is the only reason you feel safe enough to speak.
Precisely. You might be 40 years old, fully legal, but you do not want your real name linked to that account in any database anywhere. The fear of a data breach or just the fear of being outed is enough to silence those communities completely.
And we've actually seen sites shut down over this already.
Yes, LFGSS, the London Fixed Gear and Single Speed Forum. It was legendary in the cycling world.
They'll close.
The owner released a statement. He explicitly said he cannot afford compliance costs. But the part that really stuck with me was when he talked about social loneliness. He said the forum existed to bring people together, and by forcing ID checks, you destroy the anonymity that allows people to open up. You pave over the park to build a security checkpoint.
That's a tragedy. It's the destruction of digital heritage.
And it's not just the tiny guys. Look at Bluesky. They're well-funded, millions of users.
Yeah.
But in late 2025, when the U.S. state of Mississippi passed a similar verification law, Bluesky didn't comply. They pulled out. They blocked the entire state.
Because even for them, the cost and the violation of their user ethos was just too high.
They said it would fundamentally change what their service was.
Mm.
And if a platform like that says, we can't do this, what hope does the cycling forum have?
So where does this leave us? What is the future of the small web in the UK?
We are seeing a gated community effect. The internet is splitting in two. On one side, you have the walled gardens, Facebook, TikTok, Amazon. They can afford the entry fee. They have the lawyers, the tech. They become the only places left to talk.
And on the other side?
The independent web faces a brutal dilemma. Pay up, shut down, or a third option, geo-blocking. We're already seeing small international sites just blocking UK IP addresses. It's just not worth the hassle.
Are there any middlemen trying to solve this, like a service that handles the verification?
There are aggregators, companies like AllPass Trust. They try to bundle all these methods into one plugin. It solves the coding headache because you just integrate one API, but it doesn't solve the financial one. They take a cut, so the cost remains high. It's a premium service for a problem that didn't exist 3 years ago.
It feels like Ofcom is stuck between a rock and a hard place.
They are. Their mandate is to protect children, and nobody argues with that goal. But the mechanism they've chosen acts like a dragnet. It catches the whales, sure, but it crushes the minnows. The implementation burden falls disproportionately on the players with the shallowest pockets. A £5,000 bill is a rounding error for Google. It's bankruptcy for a community forum.
So let's wrap this up. We've thrown a lot of numbers and ideas around. If you are watching this space, what are the 3 big takeaways?
I think it comes down to 3 costs. First, the cash. The thousands of pounds in vendor fees, setup costs, monthly minimums that just drain the bank account of small sites.
Second, the sweat.
The technical nightmare. The integration, the maintenance, the liability, turning volunteer admins into basically IT security professionals overnight.
And finally, the soul.
Yeah. The loss of the anonymous, open nature of the web, the exclusion of people who don't have credit cards or passports, and the chilling effect on communities that absolutely rely on privacy to function.
It's a heavy price tag for safety.
It raises a pretty provocative question for everyone listening. We're building an internet where safety requires a credit card or a passport just to speak. Are we accidentally creating a digital world where only the wealthy or those willing to be tracked are allowed to participate?
That is something to chew on the next time a pop-up asks you to scan your face just to talk about bicycles. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Stay curious and stay safe.
See you next time.